From Glow to Grief, the Radium Dial Girls and the Rise of Occupational Health Awareness. For the history of the event, radium was first discovered in 1898 by French physicist Marie and Pierre Curie. Radium was first used for medical treatments such as treating tumors. Companies began to take advantage of its glow-in-the-dark properties to make watches for military use during World War One. U.S. Radium Corporation and Radium Dial Company began to branch out from military use to commercial use. This became a well-paid career for young women because of their small hands to paint many watches due to its high command. As time went on, the girls were becoming extremely ill and passing away. U.S. Radium Corporation began to cover up these mysterious illnesses and deaths with syphilis by sending in doctors who worked in for the company to make these false diagnoses. Some women began fighting for justice once they became aware of the severity of the situation and that these companies knew about the dangers, yet lied to their workers to continue profiting off of them. After 2 long years of searching for a lawyer who would represent them in trial, U.S. Radium Corp did everything in their power to prolong the case, knowing that these girls wouldn't live to see their settlement. Unfortunately, that was the case, and all the girls passed away shortly after the trial. It came to light that the judge of this trial was an investor in the U.S. Radium Corporation.
So I'm going to be talking about the stochastic effects of radiation that the radium girls had to endure. So the effects were stochastic because it was an accumulation of the radiation that they were exposed to or ingesting over a long period of time. Because they were lip pointing, they were taking the tip of the brush and they were painting the watch dials, and then they were putting the brush in their mouth to actually not in their mouth, but just on their lips to make it come to a point, which helped penmanship. And they did this again and again for several months and years, which accumulated their radiation dose. And it's really sad to think that these companies valued the sale of their watch dials over the cost of lives. So the girls were ingesting a few hundred to a few thousand microcuries of radium a year when they should have been the maximum amount would have been zero point 0.1 microcuries. So they had an extreme amount a dose yearly. And some of the stochastic effects of radiation are radiation poisoning, necrosis of the jaw, severe anemia, bone cancer, and the girls also had their teeth were falling out. When it first started, the girls just felt like they were sick and just thought it was a common cold. But as it increased and their teeth were falling out and parts of their jaw, they had a doctor come from the actual company, and they said that they had syphilis. So the girls didn't even know that they had radiation poisoning for a long time. So one of the impressive facts is that if you put a Geiger counter over the grave of a radium girl, it would actually click for more than 1,000 years. You can.
So now we're going to move on to the ALARA principle. What is ALARA? So I came at it a little bit different since we are all going to have the same section on more of an international scale instead of just the United States. So ALARA is a core concept in radiation protection. It aims to minimize ionizing radiation exposure by balancing technological, economic, and social factors, and it protects the workers, patients, and the public. Early radiation uses and risks. We all know X-rays were discovered in 1895 and their radioactivity a year later. Initially, the lack of understanding led to overexposure, burns, hair loss, cancers, and they were all based on visible harm, not biology. After World War II and the atomic bombs in Japan, studies revealed the long-term biological effects, and the researches into ionizing radiation began. In 1954, the ICRP, which is the International Commission on Radiological Protection, promotes as low as practical doses, which is the baby that evolved into the ALARA concept. In the 1970s, ALARA integrated into the US radiation safety rules with the involvement of the Environmental Protection Agency, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and they were all aligned with the ICRP recommendations and incorporated into our radiation safety regulations that focused on practical dose management. ALARA in practice, a philosophy of continuous risk assessment. So this is constantly evolving, but the three key methods are time, so minimize exposure, distance, maximize distance, and shielding, to use protective barriers. And this applies across medical, nuclear, and industrial fields. Why does ALARA matter? It was developed from growing awareness of radiation hazards, encourages ethical, science-based safety practices, and is an ongoing influence on global radiation protection strategies. Commitment to minimizing unnecessary radiation exposure. And radiation knows no boundaries, so I thought it was important to talk about it on more of a global base.
Could ALARA have changed the outcome? If the Dow company practiced the principles of ALARA, which are time, distance, and shielding, would it change the outcome? Let's see. I think it would. Starting with time, if they would have reduced their time around the radiation source, they definitely would have dropped their radiation dose. They finished the job as quickly as possible and leave the area when they were done. Definitely would have dropped their radiation dose, and create stricter schedules would have helped as well. As far as distance, if they increased their distance in order to decrease your radiation dose, the radium girls would have worked closely with the radiation source. So if they increased their distance while working with the radiation source, it would have definitely helped them. How to distance themselves, they could have used extension tools when applying the radium, using different machinery that would have applied the radium for them. Those are just some ways they could have increased their distance. As far as shielding, if they were to put some proper PPE on, like gloves, glasses, and protective clothing, that would have definitely helped them out. Depending on what type of radiation, more research should have been done in order to properly fit them with the right PPE. And finally, what we can learn from this case as it relates to the radiation.
Here's what we learned. Radiation can be harmful to the human body, evidenced by deterministic, and in this case, stochastic effects.
What we know about the stochastic effects of radiation exposure has continued to evolve since the discovery of X-rays and radioactivity in the late 1800s.
Utilizing the cardinal principles of ALARA can help minimize the risk and maximize the rewards of radiation and medical imaging.
That's about it.
Thank you very much. We painted our faces like the Radiant Girls, if you couldn't tell.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe.
Thank
ALARA.
Laura.
I don't know how to stop it. Stop?
That's all, folks.
Oh my gosh.